If your pepper plants are looking like they're having a group hug in your garden, you might be killing your harvest without even knowing it. I'm about to show you the one spacing mistake that could be costing you 50% of your peppers. And trust me, you're probably making it right now. I'm talking from experience here. If you're new to the channel, my name's Anish, and I've been growing my own food for over 10 years, and I've made every spacing mistake in the book. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to space your peppers, why it matters so much, and how to fix it if you've already planted. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact measurements that can double your pepper harvest. So how do you know if your peppers are too close? Look for these signs: leaves touching between plants, poor air circulation at the base of the plants that seem to be fighting each other for sunlight. The tricky thing is, when you transplant those tiny seedlings, they look so small that 6 inches apart seems like plenty of room. I have made this mistake so many times, and if you're like me, you just go ahead and plant loads more. Don't do it! But here's what most people don't realise. A mature pepper plant can easily spread 18 to 24 inches wide. That cute little seedling is going to become a pepper monster. And if you don't give it enough space, you're setting yourself up for disaster. I learnt this the hard way in my second year of gardening. I had 10 beautiful pepper seedlings, and I thought I was being smart by fitting them all onto my greenhouse staging. They looked perfect for the first month. Then July hit, and suddenly my pepper paradise turned into a jungle nightmare. The plants were so crowded that I couldn't even see the peppers hiding inside. Half of them rotted before I could harvest them because there was no air circulation. The other half were tiny and bitter because the plants were stressed from competing with each other. I harvested maybe 20 peppers total from 10 plants. It was heartbreaking, but a lesson well learned. Let's talk about what really happens when peppers are too close, because understanding this will change how you think about spacing forever. First, there's an underground battle you can't see. Pepper roots spread out in roughly the same diameter as the plant above ground. When plants are too close, their roots literally fight each other for the same nutrients and water. It's like trying to drink from the same straw. No one's getting enough. Above ground, you've got the air circulation problem. Peppers need good airflow to prevent fungal diseases like blight and powdery mildew. When leaves are touching, you create these little humid pockets that diseases absolutely love. USDA research shows that proper air circulation can reduce disease problems by up to 70%. That's huge! And then there's the light issue. Pepper plants need about 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight for maximum production. When they're crowded, the inner leaves get shaded out, which means less photosynthesis and fewer peppers. But here's the thing that really got to me, which is the stress response. When pepper plants are competing for resources, they go into survival mode. Instead of putting energy into making big juicy peppers, they focus on staying alive. The peppers they do produce are often smaller, less flavourful, and have thicker skins because the plant is stressed out. Alright, let's get technical, because this is where the magic happens. For most standard pepper varieties like bell peppers, jalapenos, and serranos, you want 18 to 24 inches between plants. I always use my arm's length rule. If you can't comfortably reach between plants without touching leaves, then they're too close. Simple. For smaller varieties like ornamental peppers or small hot peppers, you can get away with about 12 to 15 inches. But for the big guys, your large bell peppers, poblanos, and those monster sweet Italian peppers, give them a full 24 inches or even 30 inches if you have the space. They will reward you for it. Row spacing is just as important, and this is where I see people mess up all the time. I keep my rows 3 feet apart minimum. This gives me room to walk between them for maintenance and harvest. Plus, it ensures good air circulation across the entire bed. Maintenance space is hugely overlooked. Trust me, keep it in mind and you'll thank me later. You're welcome. Let me paint a picture of what proper spacing looks like. Imagine each pepper plant sitting in the centre of an imaginary circle that's about 4 feet across. The plant takes up the middle, its leaves can spread out without touching neighbours, and there's enough space for air to move around freely around every part of the plant. That's your sweet spot. Container growing changes everything. This is where I see the most spacing mistakes. So pay attention. Just because you're growing in pots doesn't mean spacing doesn't matter. Each pepper plant needs its own container. And that container should be at least 5 gallons for full-size peppers. I know those cute little 1-gallon pots look like they should work, but your plant will be stunted and stressed. Even when your containers are properly sized, you still need to space them apart. I keep my pepper containers at least 12 inches apart from each other. This prevents the leaves from touching and maintains that crucial air circulation. The root restriction in containers actually makes proper spacing even more important. When roots can't spread as far as they would in the ground, the above ground spacing becomes critical for preventing competition for light and air. Unless your objective is to grow tiny stressed pepper plants with a meagre harvest, make sure to follow these suggestions for container growing. So what if you're watching this and your peppers are already planted too close? Don't panic. You have options, but timing is everything. If your plants are still young, less than 6 inches tall, with no flowers yet, transplanting is totally doable. I've done this successfully many times. Make sure to do it on a cloudy day or in the evening to reduce light and heat stress. Water them well afterwards and expect some transplant shock for about a week. They'll look sad and droopy, but most will bounce back stronger than ever. Fertilise with some liquid seaweed, as this can help with the transplant shock. But if your plants are already mature and flowering, transplanting becomes risky. Mature pepper plants hate having their roots disturbed, and you could lose the whole plant. In this case, I recommend what I call the selective sacrifice method. Choose your strongest, healthiest plants and remove the weaker ones. I know it hurts, believe me, I've been there. But keeping 3 healthy plants is way better than having 6 struggling plants. Look for plants with the thickest stems and most flowers, and the best leaf colour. Those are your keepers. If you absolutely can't bear to remove any plants, at least improve air circulation by pruning some of the lower leaves and any branches that are touching between plants. Remove any leaves that are yellowing or showing signs of disease first. This won't solve the root competition problem, but it will help with air circulation and disease prevention. Honestly, I've had to do this more than I like to admit. As I mentioned before, I can't help but plant too many seeds. I really didn't want to remove any plants, so I just pruned heavily. The plants survived, but their production was still about 30% lower than my properly spaced peppers on the other side of the greenhouse. The best time to fix your spacing problems is before you plant, and this is where good planning pays off big time. Here's what I do every winter when I'm dreaming about next season's garden. I sit down and plan out my entire pepper garden. I mark exactly where each plant will go. It might seem crazy, but this prevents that, oh, I have room for just one more plant syndrome that gets me into trouble every single time. As I grow in self-watering planters, it's easy for me. I stick to 1 plant per planter and make sure to have only 4 planters on my greenhouse staging so it's not overcrowded. Commercial pepper farmers follow strict spacing guidelines because their profit depends on maximum production. Most commercial operations use 18 to 24 inch spacing with 3 to 4 foot rows, depending on their harvesting equipment. If it works for the pros, it'll work for us at home. Proper spacing isn't just about preventing problems, it actually makes everything about growing peppers easier and way more fun. When I can walk between my plants without doing some weird pepper plant limbo dance, harvesting becomes a joy instead of a frustrating chore. I can spot pest problems early because I can actually see all parts of each plant. The peppers themselves are dramatically better too. My properly spaced plants consistently produce peppers that are 20% larger with better colour development. The flavour is more intense because the plants aren't stressed from competition. But here's the real kicker. My properly spaced pepper plants produced about 40% more peppers per plant compared to my crowded control group that same season. We're talking about going from maybe 15 peppers per plant to over 20 peppers per plant just by giving them proper space. Disease management becomes so much easier too. I used to spend half of my summer battling fungal problems in my greenhouse. Now, with proper spacing, I rarely see disease issues at all. Let me give you an exact action plan because knowledge without action is just entertainment. Go check your current pepper plants right now. Can you fit your hand between plants without touching leaves? If not, they're too close. Young plants can be moved. Mature plants might need selective removal. For future planting, 18 to 24 inches between most pepper plants, 3 feet between rows, and 1 plant per 5-gallon container minimum. Write these numbers down somewhere. You'll see them when planting season comes around, and you'll remember not to overplant. If you're planning next season's garden, start now. Map out your beds, map out your pots, calculate how many plants you can actually fit with proper spacing, and only buy that many seeds or seedlings. I know it's tempted to squeeze in just one more, but resist that urge. Keep records of what worked and what didn't. I have a simple garden journal where I note spacing, varieties, and harvest results. It's amazing how much this helps year after year. The spacing mistake is probably costing you hundreds of peppers every season, but now you know exactly how to fix it, and your plants are going to thank you with the best harvest you've ever had. If this video saved your pepper harvest, make sure you check out my Growing Peppers playlist, where I share loads of other tips and tricks for growing super healthy, heavy yielding pepper plants right over here.